Hello. Welcome to Addicted to Recovery, the brand new podcast bringing you the truth about addiction. Our aim is to raise awareness about recovery and change the way society views the addict. Whether you've had one too many last night or you have multiple years of recovery, all are welcome here. This is Addicted to Recovery. My name's Christopher White. I'm joined by my dear friend, co-host and fellow recovering addict, Max Thomas. How are you today, brother?
Yeah, I'm good, Chrissy. How are you, mate?
Really good, mate. Good to have you in. Look, let's just talk about the elephant in the room. We've just been speaking for 10 minutes and I forgot to push record, okay?
It happens.
So look, sitting opposite me is someone that, if anyone listens to the other podcast I'm involved with, will know this man. It's stand-up comedian and fellow recovering addict, Josh James. Welcome to the podcast, Josh.
Hello, mate.
I was just saying, I feel like I've done my apprenticeship with Josh, and now I'm like out on the tools by myself. And the first thing I do is forget to push record.
Yeah,
so
but listen, I've done that before.
you've done it to me, mate, and we were talking for a lot longer than 4 minutes. So
We were talking for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And we were also talking about some of the madness,
yeah,
what we used to get up to, and we
Yeah.
were crying with laughter. And I remember looking down and I was like, oh, Chris, I've not
it was gold.
pressed record.
Love that.
was
But
gold.
maybe it's better for my career that it's not out there.
You probably
You know,
right.
a higher power there
Yeah.
has
Protected you.
he's intervened.
Yeah.
Do you
So-
feel like a proud dad, Josh?
Yeah, no, he's doing well. He's
Yeah.
doing well. He's doing really well. And I'm yeah, as I was talking about before, I got rudely interrupted by Chris saying he's not pressed record. I was saying it's great to see you doing this podcast, the two of you.
Cheers,
You know, there's obviously a lot of podcasts out there about recovery and sobriety, but I sometimes think some of them don't always come armed with the facts.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's you guys know what you're talking about. You live it. You got good amount of clean time to area. I see, you know, that you're in the program week in, week out,
Yeah.
and I see that you help people, especially with Chris. You know, he was he was going on a downward spiral very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to me about it. How do you know him then? Is it from school or?
No, do you know what everyone always asks? How did you two become mates?
Yeah.
No, I could never tell you when I first met Chris White. I couldn't tell
No, I
you.
couldn't put a finger on it.
Night
Which
out,
probably,
no?
yeah,
Faces
which
Night
probably,
out.
Yeah.
which probably tells you sort of all it needs to tell you that
Yeah.
we probably weren't in the best of states when
No.
we did first meet. You know, so.
Bumped into each other on a dance floor cutting shapes.
Yeah, probably in a toilet somewhere. That
But it
sounds right.
was, it was from mainly going out, really, going
Yeah,
out
yeah.
partying, you know, and
yeah.
we've got sort of two separate groups of mates, his group of mates and my group of mates. Sort of, there was a bit of overlap there. And we had a few mutual friends and would start sort of, you know, knocking about with each other from there. And he's always been a friend of mine.
Yeah.
It's only since really he went into rehab
Yeah.
and he knew that I was doing the sober thing and all,
You got closer.
that we got closer, really,
Yeah.
because we just found we had more in common. And I've actually learnt more about him over the last 3 or 4 years than I ever knew about him.
Mm.
And the Chris that I thought I knew
Yeah.
of this party guy, 100 miles per hour, really great fun and all this and that, actually a white boy 2.0, as I call him now,
Yeah. Isn't it funny though? Because
it's a different person.
Yeah.
being in recovery for 5 years, I reckon I know my mates in recovery more closely and intimately than my mates that I've known for my whole life.
Oh,
Because
most definitely.
my mates have known for the whole. They don't open up as much. You hear that surface level stuff, or when I was using, you get talking and maybe get a bit emotional at 5 o'clock in someone's kitchen. Do you know what I mean? But the next day, then it's forgotten. It's now I'm able to have like genuine, real conversations with my recovery mates about what's going on for them, actual life stuff, and it means something, and it's not forgotten about. And you can. I ring you all the time for advice, don't I? But I'm going through some business stuff at the moment, and it's being an addict. I struggle to deal with life stuff on my own. So what do I have to do? What I've been taught to do is reach out to another fellow recovering addict and bounce my stuff off of them, and that's the way it works, Chris, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, of course it is. And look, our friendship, our relationships blossomed since I got clean. I called Josh when
Yeah.
I was in treatment. Because look, the reason I called you was because there was a time I had my son, he was like maybe 18 months, 2 years
Yeah.
old at the time. And Josh is like, come meet me for breakfast. So we met in Shenfield. I had my boy with me and I was using, right? And it was one of them times where I couldn't hold it together.
Right.
I've spoke about this before. I had this ability to bottle it all up and get in and out of a situation without people knowing I was using, which is one of the things that allowed me to use for as long as I did and in the situations I did. This time, I couldn't hold it together. It was obvious I was using.
I mean, you say that. I mean, I don't know whether it was my own ignorance or, you know, I knew what you were going through or what you had told me you'd been through. But, you know, if I was to ask him then, I remember asking you, sitting down having a bit of breakfast.
But I sound fine.
I was like, oh, you're all like straight and narrow, you're not doing all that no more. He was like, yeah, fine, like looking down his plate. But I wanted to believe that, so I didn't question it, even though he was here, there and everywhere. He was going to the toilet every 5 minutes. He was... I can never remember him during sitting down for that breakfast, him looking at me in the eye. Also, I couldn't really make sense where it was very much you come in, you come out within probably about 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It was a bit of a whirlwind. I didn't really have time to sort of assess what was actually happening.
Yeah.
I just remember coming away from that thinking, that was a bit of a weird breakfast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was a bit
And it's
odd.
like me.
He didn't eat much.
With my young son, no, but I probably would have, like, whatever I had to do to make you think I weren't using, I would have done it.
Oh,
if
right.
I've got to eat food against my will, I would do
Yeah.
it. Like, and I've got my son with me. Morally, that goes against everything I'm about.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was just, I couldn't not use.
Yeah,
I just
cool.
couldn't not use. So when I got to rehab, I called Josh because I knew he knew.
Yeah.
And we had a right good chat, didn't we, when I was in rehab? And you're like, mate, so happy for you. And you know what was one of the best things for me? Like you said, your recovery friends.
Yeah.
I had a friend that was in recovery.
Yeah, nice, mate.
So it was like, I got loads of mates in recovery, but it was nice to have a friend from the outside world. And then we just got really close.
Yeah.
Your career's obviously taken off. And you started your podcast and you asked me to come on as a guest, and I've been the co-host ever since. And it's been a great little journey.
Yeah.
And it's turned into this. You know what I mean? There's no way we would be doing this, or I wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't for you giving me the chance to come on your podcast. So I'm forever grateful for that.
Nah, well, mate, I'm forever grateful for everything that you give me in just everyday life. You know, before Chris was, he was, yeah, like I said, he was just on a downward spiral.
Yeah.
And I just never thought he would ever
Really?
sort himself out. Yeah, and I think if you ask a lot of people that, it just seemed, we all thought that would be the case, you know, because, yeah, it just didn't seem like he would. Obviously,
did you see it take hold of him, Josh? As in, like, did you see the progression in
he
the...
was very good at hiding things, you
Yeah.
know. And as well, what I would say is at the time, I wasn't one of his close friends.
No.
Whereas I know a lot of his other close mates, they saw it firsthand. You know,
Yeah.
if they was on a job with him,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
saw it, you know.
Mm.
I was probably not close enough to him at the time to really realise the severity just from what they had been telling me.
Yeah, if you just seen him on nights out, then it just you blend in.
It's
don't you?
in a sort of acceptable
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
One of my tricks was you don't spend too much time with any one person.
Mm.
You bounce, right?
Yeah.
Because if you do, then people are going to be like, something's
found
not
out.
right with you. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? You haven't sat still for 6 days. Like, what's going on? And that was me. You know what I mean? I was constantly bouncing around. Funny you say you never thought I was going to get out of it. I didn't think I was ever going to get out
No.
of it. I thought I was toast.
Well, I felt the same when I was, you know, drinking and using. I could just remember thinking in my 20s, I just could not comprehend,
Mm.
not ever, I was about to say wanting it, but never, I needed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Needed, you know, I could never comprehend that. But that's what's unbelievable about, and that's why I think so many people, when they go into the rooms, go into recovery, they're so like dismissive of it at first, like this ain't gonna get me sober.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's going to work.
Because
No.
what go into a village hall on a Wednesday night
Yeah.
with these local people and talking about problems and getting a sponsor and going through just this book, you're having a laugh, and you don't understand how powerful this addiction is, if that's what you think.
Yeah.
You know, that's how you feel, because when you come in, you're like, it's not glitz and glamour, it's very basic,
Mm.
you know, but it's amazing what it can do. But, you know, since Chris has been clean and sober, you know, if anyone, I could tell you now, if there's one person that you would call up to help you in anything, whether it be wanting to get sobriety or just emotionally, or, you know, he's the man.
Yeah.
He's the man that people lean on now.
I hear it a lot because it's like we talk about the 180s, don't we, in the rooms where you just wouldn't have been. I had a moment with my younger brother, and his baby was poorly when his second child was born, and like I was the first person he called, you know what I mean, to help and get down to hospital. Like, rewind a tape 5 years ago, I was not even on that list. Do you know what I mean? I was not even on that list because he knew, one, I might not turn up, or I just wasn't reliable, or there was just other people who would be able to deal with that situation differently and better. But today, I'm number one on the list, and it's just it's all down to recovery, really. Isn't
Of course
it?
it is.
It's amazing.
Complete 180-degree turn in our lives.
Yeah.
And look, there you're saying you was like not even on the list. I would be on the like, make sure he doesn't come.
Yeah.
Don't let him find out.
Don't let him know, because he's going to make it all about him, and I can't deal with that right now.
Like if you were broken down and you're like, right, who can help me? You think, no, I'm not going to call White Boy, because otherwise the car's going to end up in flames.
We'll turn up in 2 weeks.
By the way, to all the listeners that don't know, White Boy is my nickname.
Sorry.
Chris
Sorry.
White. People call me White Boy.
Yeah. So yeah,
I've introduced myself as Christopher White, not
I know,
White Boy.
it's
Danny.
quite
Come
funny.
on.
He's very prim and proper on his
He's
podcast,
posh on it.
which
He's
is
gone all posh.
which is good. Which is good. I don't think you'd want the White Boy persona
No.
on this podcast.
Yeah.
So you keep up with that that
Sounds like
facade,
Top
mate.
Boy,
Thanks,
doesn't
mate. Yeah. Funny enough, I've got a few friends that always used to call me White Boy, and then when I got clean, they changed my name in their phone back to Chris, or to like
Nice.
something different, 'cause it was like, now the White Boy days are over.
Yeah, that's when the
And
White
you've
Boy name-
rekindled them on that.
Yeah,
shame
yeah.
film.
You listen. You are more Chris now. It's yes, White Boy. White Boy's the old
Yeah, it was
the
the
old
old.
version.
But you call me White Boy 2.0. I'll take that as well.
White Boy.
But I'm definitely not the same guy.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So, tell us a little bit about your story. How did you come to get to the place where you decided that you wanted to give recovery a go?
Yeah. So, suppose like, a bit of background about me is just like born in Haroldwood Hospital,
Saint.
as you were,
Mm-hmm.
and then grew up in Brentwood.
Mm.
Went to school in Hornchurch.
Yeah.
And yeah, I suppose like for me, I always grew up with I don't know. I think high expectations. Like with my family setup, my dad was very much like you know, sort of working class bloke that had his own business, done right for himself.
Mm.
You know, and I just remember being younger that it was sort of like it was always mentioned. You know, my grandparents come round. They're from the East End, so they've come from very little.
Mm.
I remember just always coming and thinking, "Oh, you're lucky, aren't you lucky?
Yeah.
You're lucky to, the life your dad's given you, sort of thing."
Yeah.
You know, we weren't like millionaires. You know, I'm not like fucking Eddie Hearn. You know,
Yeah.
it wasn't that sort of money where you could pass it down to me and then.
Mm.
I'd be driving back in Range Rover. It wasn't really like that, but it was. They give me a nice, lovely upbringing.
Yeah.
But
Never
I
wanted
just,
for anything.
no, exactly that. Never spoiled. I can always remember wanting certain football boots, and they're like, "No, you spend your budget for football boots is £40." I'm like, yeah, but come on, like everyone else got £80
My mum
month.
and dad were like that.
Mm.
But they're like, no, because they're like, but I'm glad they did do that, because you don't grow up spoiled, you grow up hardworking and all them sort of things, and you realise really that. You've got to work for everything in life, you know what I mean? But I just always had that, I remember thinking when I was younger, well, bloody hell, I've got to try and achieve something more in my life than what my dad's done,
I had the exact same thing.
because otherwise I'm a fucking loser.
Mm.
Sorry, can I swear on here?
Of course you can.
I've but I just thought, I'm a loser, if someone can go from that situation to,
Yeah.
comfortable living or whatever. I just remember and I just remember that pressure from a young age, right? And also at school, I weren't particularly smart. I was good at certain subjects like PE. I was very good at art. I was good at English. I was good at creative things.
Yeah.
But in terms of like maths, science, I was always used to struggle in them.
Yeah.
And he was in like lower sets for them. And I just always remember thinking, well, if I've got to be, Dad's got his own business. If I'm going to have my business, I'm not going to be able to do that. I just knew I weren't that way inclined,
Yeah.
So I had this pressure of just being like, just remember thinking from a young age, oh, you're destined to be a bit of a loser. And I remember I left school and I was like, right, oh, well, I want to try and earn a load of money. I've never been money motivated in my life. It's never really got me going.
No.
I've never been a money motivated sort of person, really. It's just not, that's just not me. As long as I've got enough, I'm happy. And I like to do my creative things because that's where I get really pleasure in my life, And I remember leaving school and going, right, I'm going to go try and work in the city. And I'd send out on all my CVs. And one thing I was good at is in an interview, I'm a good talker.
Yeah.
I'm very good at selling myself.
Good interviewer.
Yeah. And like from a young age, I can remember people going to my dad, how old is he? What? And you can have that conversation with us.
Yeah.
I remember I was just good at talking.
Yeah, nice.
Right? So in an interview, you think, "Quite this guy."
Yeah, he knows his stuff.
This guy, you could see, I didn't have a degree, come from sixth form, but they thought, "God, this kid's got a bit about him." You know what I mean?
And you went to uni though, right?
I went to uni for a year.
Yeah.
But I dropped out.
Yeah.
Basically.
Same as me, Josh. Honestly, stories are very, very similar.
But that's where I met a lot of my mates who our mutual friends. I mean, I went to Reading Uni for a year. I thought, yeah, uni's where you go and, you expand your horizons, you meet new people. Yeah. I just hung about with a load of other geezers from Essex.
Yeah, it's true.
And we done exactly the same. We go out drinking. They'd get in fights. I'd sort of pretend to be at the back, being like, oh, yeah, that was great, wasn't it? Not really getting involved because I was too scared to do all that, But then I went into the city and I got I'd done recruitment to start off with, which was a decent job for a good company. Then I got an opportunity to interview for brokers.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is just what everyone talks about. People, you, especially living in Essex, you always know about guys that got big houses and what do they do? They're a broker or they're a trader. I'm like, yeah, that's great. I knew nothing about it.
No.
Got the interview, done a bit of research on it. Anyway, ended up getting the job. And I can just remember like being buzzing that I got the job and then thinking, oh no, this ain't going to go well. I remember thinking that. And I remember getting in there and I think they half employed me because all on the desk, they was all like quite like well-spoken private school boys, right? All very switched on. I could tell they thought you'd be a good salesman, more in like the Barrow boy sort of.
I can see you in there though, pinstripe suit, giving it large.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'd watched what's Gordon Gekko? What was he?
The Boiler Room.
The Boiler Room. I'd watched all them, and I'm like, right, yeah,
No. So the original that was called
Wall Street.
Wall Street, and then it was the Boiler Room, the one after. Yeah.
So I went in there. And I think that's why they employed me. I thought you'd be a good salesman, you're good with people, you're a great talker, and you're something different than what we've not got on the desk.
Yeah.
But my job was to book the trades, get the lunches, and then hopefully one day if I worked hard enough, I'd get to where they are, But I can just remember the first week being like, the job in terms of the booking the trades and that was pretty straightforward. I could do that. But in terms of the job that they done, I just knew my brain weren't wired that way.
So intense, isn't it?
Yeah. But the intensity of it, I'd think I wouldn't have bothered me so much. I get up on the stage.
Yeah, I suppose.
I like that pressure.
Yeah.
But it was more just like the intelligence of it, to be perfectly honest. I just knew I weren't smart enough.
Yeah, but look, so this is what I've noticed. You always go to that, like you said in the beginning, oh, I'm going to be a loser. Or you're like, oh, no, I'm not clever enough. And you do it now. I clock him all the time.
Really?
You always go to that negative thing. What did you say your New Year's resolution was going to be?
Belief in myself.
Believe in yourself.
Yeah, but you got to be realistic.
And positive. And I think that's part of your disease. Because I see it a lot with addicts, not believing in themselves and struggling to have that self-belief and that self-awareness, like to go and get it.
Addicts, massive ego, low self-esteem.
Exactly that. Exactly that. So I think that stems from this stuff. Continue.
Maybe. But anyway, yeah, I'd done that job for about a year and I was enjoying it, just, and they really liked me. Sort of knew, I thought, on that desk that I was on, I was thinking, I don't want to get promoted there because I think then I'll get found out, I got offered another job on another desk and I thought, that seems a bit easier.
Right.
And I thought, the blokes on there didn't seem as smart.
Right.
And I thought, look, it's going to be hard work. But I was like, go take that job that they've offered you to go over there, and that's probably your best chance. And I worked on that desk for a year, and the guy that was like my supervisor, he wasn't really my boss, but he was the guy that led the team. He was like an old, like fucking, oh sorry, I can swear again. He's like posh guy, but you could tell very much old money. And he just seemed to take a disliking to me from day one. And I ended up leaving that role.
Was there a lot of boozing involved in that job?
There was a lot of boozing, but this is what I'm getting to, is that this guy, I mean, look, I didn't have a lot of self-belief anyway. I've never really had that much self-belief. As Chris said, you know, I've always had that default setting of, you know...
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, not so much imposter syndrome, but just you are never going to amount to nothing.
Yeah.
You know? And all those beliefs I had, he absolutely ruined me.
Really?
Yeah, just like, I think now, you know, in this sort of more sort of conscious mental health world, you know, I think a lot more people probably would have called him out for sort of bullying me, really. I was a 20-year-old kid, and he absolutely destroyed every bit of confidence I had. And I left that job after a year.
That's bad supervising.
Yeah, but
trying to get the most out of your team, right?
Yeah, but listen, I can remember older guys come up to me going, listen, he's an idiot, like he's an arsehole, don't pay no attention to him. But none of them ever stuck up for me, you know. I just got absolutely ruined for a year. And that was when I can really remember that my drinking, it just exaggerated. I mean, going back to when I first actually had a drink, I was 16, I went to a mate's 18th birthday party, ended up drinking till I passed out.
Standard.
Got home, saw myself.
Standard.
But I woke up, I woke up and it was like, oh yeah, but that's what you do, you know, you go out. I thought, God, that's weird that I pushed it that far, you know. But I just remember that was the year that it just exaggerated. I went and I think that was a year that I basically got done for drink driving. I went out. I've come back from this party the next day from still being out. Fell asleep at the wheel, crashed my car. You know, and I can remember thinking then, God, this is like.
What age were you then?
I think I was 20 then.
So consequences early.
Yeah, consequences early. But I can remember thinking then, God, this is out of hand. But I didn't really ever think. I can remember going out for dinner after that car thing and looking across from my dad and thinking, I really want to say to you, I really need help here. Like I'm smashing myself to bits.
Right.
But I felt like I couldn't because he had, you know, given me what he'd given me growing up. I felt like, no, I can't do that. I'll be even more of a loser. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't do. No, you need to sort it out for yourself.
Yeah.
I remember going to my first meeting when I was 20, 21.
Right.
But then going in there thinking I'm the youngest one here by years. And then also thinking, well, I'm not doing it every day. You know, it's just when I go out, I seem to blow up.
Yeah.
Seeing loads of similarities between you two.
There's loads, yeah.
Yeah, you know, but yeah, that year with that bloke, it absolutely ruined me. It absolutely shot me to bits. And throughout my 20s, really, that was the recurring thing of, you know, I kept on starting jobs, failing at things. I just had no belief. You know, this guy had really, really crippled me. And the only solution I had for it at the time was to drink.
We talk about hole in the soul, don't we, in the rooms, and it may well be that guy treating you like that made that hole in the soul so much that had to be filled with something. Do you know what I mean? And it's a very similar story to me, Josh. Like I had massive expectations on me when I was a youngster. In my head, anyway. Do you know what I mean? My old man, if I spoke to him now, he probably wouldn't tell the story like that. Do you know what I mean? But in my head, Dad was a very successful businessman, and in my head, I wanted him to love me, and I sort of convinced myself that he would give me more love the more successful I was. Do you know what I mean? And I could never ever live up to those expectations. Well, that's what my head was telling me, and over time, that voids, that hole in the soul became so big. Every single time I drunk, I'll black out or be sick. And my peers around me, they weren't drinking like that. Do you know what I mean? They weren't using, even from a young age, like you said, you crash your car at 20. I remember when I was 20, I was using different to other people.
Yeah.
And the binge using, I can relate to the binge using. Like when I came into recovery, I had that same mentality. I'm a weekend user, maybe 3 days on the bounce, but because I'm not using every single day, do I deserve to be here? Do you know what I mean?
I've not got a
spoke
problem.
about this on the podcast before. I think it's got to be so tough to acknowledge you're an addict, you got a problem, and you need help when you're not using every day. That's why my hat comes off to people like you guys that are binge users. You can have a day off. For me, it was so glaringly obvious. It was almost like, mate, you need to get in there, otherwise you're going to die. Like, it's just as simple as that. You can't use cocaine every day. It's just like a fact.
No.
So this is why I have so much respect for people that weren't daily users, but recognized the pain it was causing and made the decision to sort themselves out anyway. So, in many ways, I think it's harder.
Yeah, I mean, I bounced in and out the rooms all through my 20s, you know, and yeah, I mean, I've always, I feel like Rodney O'Sullivan now, but I can remember since that being 20, I've always struggled with my mental health, you know what I mean? And that, I felt like that was also the only thing that would help me, you know?
Yeah, I felt the same.
I think we're lucky now. We live in more of a time where there just seems where it's obviously more spoken about. You know what your options are a bit more. You know, meditation's great, exercise is fantastic, and listen, there's no shame in it. But I have for the last 2 years. I take 50 milligram of sertraline every day, which is an antidepressant, and you know, that's good. You know, I need that. You know, but yeah, I can remember just. Coming towards the end of my 20s, and
so did you pick up any clean time along the way, substantial, or
through 4 months maybe?
Right, yeah.
Towards the end of my 20s, I was just like, you know, it got to a point really where, I mean, I would call throughout my 20s, I would call up Samaritans.
Yeah.
You know.
So you knew you needed help then, really?
Yeah, but call up Samaritans, you know, because you think, oh, I'm going to kill myself or whatever. Next couple of days, you're laughing about it, like, oh, bloody hell, that is just, it's just a bad hangover or whatever. But one question I always remember they would ask you, they would say, well, have you planned it? You know, do you know what you would do? And I know, I've realised, since I've found out now, if you say no, then it's not an imminent threat because it's more... You know, but I can remember getting towards the end of my 20s, and there was a couple of days where, I thought, I know what I'm going to do. You know, and I remember there was one day, I was in bed for 2 days, and every time I woke up, I'd just make myself go back to sleep. Didn't want to be, conscious, you know. And then I remember being like, well, you know, either you go do it or you go to the hospital, you know. I was like, well, I'm not going to call an ambulance because I don't want people driving down it, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I drove myself to Harlow Hospital and, you know, told them this is how I feel, you know. And they gave me a bit of help, and I think I got a bit of clean time just off of, you know, that experience really of being like, well, I can't, bloody hell, it sent me there, to... Then about 6 months later, going back out and doing the same thing, you know. And
that's the insanity around it, innit? We shout about it all the time.
Of course it is.
I used to just go around on that merry-go-round, Josh, of just fucking the same behaviours every fucking week. Do you know what I mean? Come Thursday, like you said, I'd start feeling all right again, and I'd just be back at it. Exactly the same thing. Turn up Monday morning, Sunday night, 5 a.m, knocking on the front door. Missus letting me in. What do you know what I mean? Gone missing for 3 days, kids are upstairs, and I used to do that for years and years and years, multiple hospital visits like yourself. Like, it's just insanity. Like, the same behaviours expecting different results, and it's just, once you're in it, it's fucking hard to get out.
Yeah, it's really tough to get out.
Yeah.
I mean, look, thanks for opening up like that, Josh. It's like, I never heard you say that. I sort of knew because you've touched on it a little bit, but I mean, the podcast we do is a comedy podcast.
Yeah, it's not very funny, is it?
Suicide's a bit of a comedy cul-de-sac, as you say. But
it is. There's not a lot of comedy in that, funny enough. Yeah, not a lot of comedy in that.
But
Comedy
it's really,
cul-de-sac.
yeah, it's really good. I learned that from my guy. There.
Yeah,
So,
that's one of my catchphrases.
Yeah. It's really good to be get vulnerable and talk openly about that stuff.
I would have never have, but do you know, it's because I'm quite far removed from that now. I can talk about it, about something that was in the past.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not, and also I'm not, you know, it's a big thing. I never really wanted to look, I never really wanted also people's, stranger. I didn't want people's sympathy, but at the same time, I really needed an arm around me.
Yeah.
You know, it's a weird sort of.
It's another one of them catch-22s.
But the beauty is about opening up, right? About talking about it. Hopefully there's someone out there listening who has experienced the same thing that Josh has experienced previously, who can think, wow, this is how meetings work, right? You'd share something about one week. It's okay to share about that. It's okay to open up. He's not been judged. And then we move on from that. And that's where the power lies in recovery and that connection, isn't it?
Of course it does.
And it's really only because I've got the connection to Chris.
Yeah.
Where he's like my closest confidant now.
Yeah.
Tell him everything. He knows all my secrets.
Yeah.
He knows, which I don't have many, but he knows.
No comment.
But as in, I would only share stuff with Chris.
Yeah.
I mean, I realise this podcast's been recorded, but I'd only share that with him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
and it's that almost like, it's almost like a brotherhood of being in the meetings and sharing that stuff. And like going back to your like earlier point of like friendships, I'm very lucky. I've got fantastic friends and family and always have. And I know my friends, especially, family and friends, but I probably wouldn't burden ever my family with that, you know, but I'll share it with friends. But I would never share that with them.
No.
You know, that bond that I feel like me and Chris have got now through opening up, through going through this journey together.
That's beautiful, mate.
You know, it's something that
Look, we recorded an episode about sponsorship the other day, and that's what it's all about, right? So I sponsor you. And that's how it works, right? You tell one person everything. And that person confides.
I've also got to say my original sponsor, Lee, as well.
There you go.
Was massive, you know. I've shared things with him that I've you know never shared with anyone else other than Chris and Lee. You know, not necessarily things that have happened, but just like my inner thoughts and feelings. You know,
of course.
And it's mad how you can open up like that and it just feels fine.
Of course it does. It feels so much better.
Cool, yeah.
So much better. It's like a load off, right? We spoke about it. It's the thing that's causing you so much pain. And then once you've got it out there and you sort of give half of it to someone else, it just feels lighter, right? And that's what this stuff is, just time and time again. What's the saying? Problem shared is a problem half.
That's it.
I think there's no truer saying than when it comes to recovery.
I'm programmed now, honestly. Not oversharing, but every aspect of my life. Like I mentioned that I've got some financial and business stuff going on at the moment, and I reckon I've spoken to 5 people this week about it, I reckon.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Just bouncing.
Get it out
Maybe
there.
not like the full extent of it, or what do you think about this? How shall I deal in this situation? Previously, I would have just bottled that up, not really spoken to anyone about it, maybe put my head in the sand, but 100% I would have gone down the pub on a Friday night and blasted myself to bits.
Yeah, and probably told someone.
That's the difference now.
Oh, you know what's happened to me this week?
Yeah. I
Get
glamorised it, exaggerated it. Do you know what I mean?
Get
It's either the
yourself
best
all
thing or the
worked
worst
up
thing.
about it, and then you wake up next day, and funnily enough, the problem's twice as bad. Then
Exactly. And then you're not in the physical, you ain't got the physical capabilities of dealing with the problem because you just smash yourself to bits and again and again and again. So where did your recovery journey start this time? Were you clean time?
So I mean,
You checked yourself into Harlow.
yeah, checked myself into Harlow.
Oh, you said then you relapsed about 6 months ago. 6 months after. Sorry.
6 months later. I mean, it's all still a bit of a blur, really. But I can remember going back into the rooms, and was like, right, you know, I'm going to go back to meetings regularly. Went to the meetings regularly. didn't do the 12 steps, didn't get a sponsor, relapsed after about 10 months. Was like, right, okay, I'll get myself a sponsor and go through the steps now. Done it again, got myself to about 11 months, relapsed again. Do you know what it was? It's like we said earlier, I just kept telling myself, you didn't used to do it every day though. So I'm just debating with myself, you know, do you really have a problem with addiction? You know, I had that constantly going through my head. And also I had going through my head, I'd just like to have a couple of drinks. Yeah. You know, maybe this is a maturity thing. I'm growing up now.
That we're all
I just want to, I seriously thought that if I could go a year, that it would somehow, I'd go back to default settings.
Reset.
And then I'd have another,
Unfortunately,
I'd have another run at it again. You know, that's what I thought. And, you know, the last time I had a drink, it was just that realization of like, I drank a bottle of something in a very quick amount of time, you know, to try and you know, blackout really. And I woke up next day and I thought, oh, that's very dangerous. I could, you know, I could have really hurt myself there. Yeah. I could have really hurt myself there. And then it was, I mean, emotionally, it was just like a realization of like totally being defeated and being like, oh, I get it now. Yeah. I get it now.
Surrender.
So you had nearly a year clean.
Yeah. But it was also part of that. And then a part of, listen, I'm a family man now. You got to do better. You got to do better than that. You know, all those prophecies that you had in your mind when you were younger, that you're going to be a loser and you ain't going to amount to nothing. Well, they're coming true. You got one life. Are you going to try and turn it around now and actually try and make something of this life? You know? And I thought, yeah, I am, you know? And, you know, the one thing I suppose, which was always a bit of a saving grace, is like one thing I knew that I was good at, even though not everyone else would probably say the same thing, but I knew I was good at stand-up comedy.
I was going to say, that was growing all through these all through this time.
So you're doing stand-up for how long now?
So I started when I was 23.
There you go. So while all this is going on, you're carving out a path for yourself in the comedy scene.
So when you're on stage, Josh, is that like a drug for you? Is that an escape for you as well?
So did you use the drink before gigs?
No. Heavily after, but you know, before, it was the one thing I was like, this is the one thing I take seriously. I'm not having a bit of drink. Right. You know, I was really, but I missed out on a lot of opportunities through my 20s through just fucking about, not turning up for things, not putting in the work that I really needed to. You know, a lot of people tell me, you know, you've got really big potential, you know.
How many times you heard that?
But I would just...
Every report.
I would fuck it up, whether I just didn't turn up somewhere or whether I didn't put in the effort for a certain thing that I had, you know, just thinking, well, I'm good at it, I'll be fine, I just, you know what I mean, wing it. But one thing that I would always say, I would have been, if it weren't for the stand-up comedy, I would have been a lot worse because that took my attention away for a certain amount of time. Yeah. And it also gave me a rush. Yeah. And,
well, that's what Max just asked.
It gives me a high that if I didn't have that, it just would have been the booze.
No, I just had a little experience of what he was talking about. We done a live show recently. You came, Max. I was on stage. And when I came off stage...
Voice of an angel.
Thanks, mate. Come on.
Debatable.
Chris Withers.
Debatable. He's more of a rapper. He's more of an MC.
So anyway... Yeah, taking the piss. I have got a great voice, but whatever. It didn't show through on that night. I come off stage and I was buzzing.
Oh, yeah.
Really buzzing. Yeah, it was a night where I had to be up really early the next morning and I couldn't sleep.
Buzzing, then had to go and sleep in the back of a transit.
Yeah, exactly that. It was like real glamorous, you know what I mean? But once again, my brother asked for help. Instead of me saying, no, I'm busy that night, I can't do it tomorrow, I'm like, you know what? Can I do both? Yeah, I can do both. Yeah. So I did both. It's like being that reliable guy. But anyway, the point was, I was rushing from adrenaline through being on stage. Couldn't sleep.
No.
Couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
So to answer your question that you asked Josh, yeah, it's definitely a buzz. Definitely a buzz.
And that buzz is still there now?
Yeah, not as high as what it once was.
No.
It's funny one because it's like what I say to people now with the stand-up is like, when you first start, you have a good gig, you are absolutely rushing.
Yeah.
When you have a bad gig, you're really in the gutter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas now, if I have a bit of a rough gig or I have a good gig, I still get that slight buzz. I still get that.
But the venues, I suppose, if the venues get bigger, then the rush would.
Yeah. But with that, like, as in, I don't go as high and low anymore.
No.
It's very much of like, this
Okay.
is what I do. I was in Brighton last night. I was at the Theatre Royale,
Lovely.
supporting my mate Bubba Tunde,
Yeah.
and that was like 1,000 people,
Wow.
and
Beautiful venue, by the way.
Yeah.
beautiful. And I looked down at my watch. I was like, 18 minutes. It felt like I'd been up there 3 minutes because it was such a lovely gig,
Oh, amazing.
And I can remember coming off stage last night thinking, yeah, that was nice, but it's not the same buzz as when you first start doing it. It's like, I suppose it's like when you first start having a drink or taking drugs. It's a really great rush to start off with, and then it sort of slowly.
Yeah.
But I love stand-up comedy is my passion. I love writing. I probably prefer the writing to the performing actually a lot of the time.
Getting them creative juices going, mate.
Yeah, and I just absolutely love it. And I did always think, listen, you ain't never going to get nowhere if you carry on, if you don't address this problem. And actually, since I got back in the rooms and in recovery the last 3 or 4 years, it's I've just accelerated. I started getting somewhere with it once I'd, got address this other problem.
Yeah.
Directly correlated.
Directly correlate.
to be.
And I just thought, well, I'm just got a good run of luck at the moment, or I'm just getting better. And
Nah.
No, it's because you've put
no
that down and
coincidence.
you picked up the thing that you really want to do.
yeah, exactly. And over the last, this is what above all else, mentally, what recovery has given me is above all else. Above all else, it's just like it's mentally, it's helped, it's corrected me. Look, to a certain degree, I'm always going to be a bit mental.
Yeah, we all are.
I'm always going to be.
So
And I don't-
peace of mind.
I'm not always, sometimes my ego pops up and need to address that. And sometimes I react ways that, and I'll look back and I think I shouldn't have done that. I'm not perfect, never be perfect.
No.
But that's the main thing it's given me is mentally, I'm not calling up Samaritans no more.
No.
I'm not thinking, oh, well, that's where I'm going to do it, where I go on my run every day. That's the spot I'm going to do it. Seems nice and quiet there,
You're
I'm not-
stable.
I don't think that no more.
No.
And actually, that guy, it scares me to think, well, I couldn't, I could never, the headspace I'm at the moment, I couldn't imagine thinking those thoughts at them, at the moment. I really can't. But also, that's the best thing it's given me. But the second thing it's given me like, it's given me all these opportunities in the one thing I always dreamed of doing, which was stand up, really.
That's it, right.
Because I remember when I was younger, when I thought, well, I ain't gonna have my own business like my dad. I know I'm not wired that way. But I can remember watching comedians thinking, I think I could do that, and I think I could be good at that, and that's what I mean. I'm not the most famous, biggest comedian out there, but I'm in a really good place. I'm really lucky to have all the opportunities that I've got,
Yeah.
and to be in a position I am today.
I think luck maybe have something to do with it, but mate, you graft at it.
Yeah,
I've seen it from the word go. I'll come to one of your first ever gigs, and obviously, like I see what you're doing now. I see you up on stage with like some real big comedians that are endorsing you to warm up for them.
Yeah.
And you're doing some massive shows out of your own right, and that doesn't happen by accident. It's like when we see people come in and start really thriving in recovery.
It's not an
It doesn't happen by accident.
No.
You put the work in, you get the rewards.
I say it every
It's as
time,
simple
don't
as
I?
that.
I say it every time. When I see someone thriving in recovery, I say, well, I'm not surprised. And I'm not surprised when someone, unfortunately, relapses, because if you don't put the work in and you don't commit yourself to this program, then unfortunately, history says that there's only one real what's the word I'm looking
It's like
for?
the relapse is in the post.
Exactly.
If you don't work your program, we can't guarantee.
And I feel like recovery also gives you a gratitude for just things that you took for granted previously. I mean, I was doing support for Mo the other day, and I'm just being next to Gelly, who's our manager, and just going like, thank you so much, mate. I'm just like, this is unbelievable.
Yeah, that's Mo Gilligan for anyone listening.
This is like a dream. This is like a dream come true. You know what I mean? I weren't going to say his second name. It's a bit muggy.
It would be Farrell, was it?
Yeah.
I just want to be a long distance runner.
Yeah, me and Mo, we done about 1,500 metres. And I'll tell you, that's one thing that recovery's given me is great stamina. I lapped him twice. I was doing the J. He was trying to give it the M. I was giving it the J. But yeah, I like just the gratitude that I have for that. But just also just in everyday life, getting up early in the morning.
Oh, I love it.
I used to hate mornings.
Me too.
Mornings used to be my enemy. I love getting up early now. I love getting a cup of tea, watching as the birds are tweeting. It's still a little bit dark. I love that. I love going for a walk. I love walking past that old spot that I thought that's where I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I love walking past there and having a chuckle, thinking you've come a long way.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Jumps in there.
I say in the meetings, I walk my dog every morning down on the beach, Josh, right? And like 7 o'clock in the morning, it's down on the towpath down by the station. And I picture myself, I'm walking, I'm 5 years in recovery, and like I might be saying a little prayer, whatever I'm doing, but I'm in a real lovely position. I've got my wife back in my life and my kids, etc. But 5 years ago, I picture myself, I used to be walking that way after a 3-day bender, so no one would see me on the high street. I'd be walking that same route, the opposite direction.
Yeah.
And it's just that parallel existence that I've got now. And it's just, I picture myself just like, do you know what I mean, creaturing out, walking up the other way, and it's just like, wow, how my life has changed. Do you know what I mean? It's just the gratitude thing's massive, isn't it? We talk about that all the time. It's just,
but then sometimes you can let it slip. You know, sometimes.
Oh yeah.
On a day where I'm not being conscious of this stuff, sometimes I can forget the fact that, you know, I've got a beautiful family that I always dreamed of. You know, that I've got good relationships with people now, that I've not made a fool of myself the night before, you know, and you know, you can forget those things because, like I said before, you know, no one's perfect. We're all a work in progress.
Of course, we're human beings.
Exactly that.
You're going to make mistakes.
You're going to make mistakes.
Luckily for us, we get to do over the next day.
Yeah,
we can make amends for what we've done.
And how great is it as well that we can be conscious of the fact that we've made those mistakes. I mean, one thing I also, when I was drinking and when I was doing all that mad stuff, I could never admit that I was wrong. Could never admit it. I could not, because if I admitted it, then it all felt real, you know.
Yeah,
I couldn't
agree more. Couldn't agree more. Never my fault.
Coming to the end now, Josh, and we always do this to our guests. Have you got advice? Someone in your situation, so maybe Josh when he's 20 and he's questioning whether to come into recovery. What would your advice be?
Don't go Ibiza. Stay away from Marbella.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I mean, look, this is one thing. I don't think I'm at the stage yet. You know, one thing I hear Chris say a lot is I'm a grateful addict.
Yeah.
I'm grateful I went through that.
Yeah.
I still not forgiven myself a lot for you know, for getting myself in that position. You know, for getting to those lows. I'm not there yet. I'm not.
Come with step work, the forgiveness.
I've done my steps.
Okay.
And I still can't forgive myself. You know, so I'm not. You know, what would I say to my 20-year-old self? I don't think I've got long enough to even begin. But you know, take it easy on yourself, probably. And yeah, just get in those rooms. Keep going back. You know, you save yourself a lot of a heartache. Because I don't, you know, like with Chris, you're like, I'm grateful I went through that because now I've got this, you know.
I think I needed it.
I would probably rather, me talking honestly, I'd probably rather all that didn't happen, in all honesty. And I just wish I didn't get to that place what I got to. Yeah, but I would say take it easy on yourself and you just got to, as they say, keep coming back.
Yeah, nice, man.
Nice one, Josh. And just as a footnote, while I've got you on record, mate, can we get you to commit to coming back through the steps with me?
Yeah,
Because you've been talking about it
been
for a
a bit
while, but
lax,
not much has happened.
but listen, as you said, I've been very busy with Mo Gilligan.
Spoken like a true addict.
No, I need to. I mean, listen, that's probably one thing that I do now. I probably put work, the comedy head too much ahead of the recovery.
We'll get there.
But we'll get there.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for coming along,
No,
Josh.
thanks
I
for having me,
really
mate.
appreciate
Josh,
it.
mate. Lovely.
Been a great guest. You got
Yeah,
really
yeah.
vulnerable there, and it was really insightful as well. So thanks so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure being on the other side of the table. It really has.
It's great hearing your Mark Wright radio voice.
Christopher.
Hi there. It's Christopher White here for Addicted to Recovery. I'm joined by my good friend
Maximilian.
Yeah, listen. Hopefully, Heart Radio are listening. You can take our Wrighted Boys spot.
Brilliant. I'll take that. Pays well, right?
Play some 80s bangers.
Got a few kids now. So anyway, before we sign off, please, everybody, if you've got Instagram, get over to Addicted to Recovery Pod. That is at Addicted to Recovery Pod. Give us a follow. We're going to have plenty of updates, some good clips, and just some general content for you on there. So go check us out.
Yeah, get on there.
See you next week.
Peace.